As this week of prayer for Christian unity draws to a close, I'm delighted that my castaway on COVID Island today is a member of one of the non-Anglican churches here in Dronfield and district. She was born in Chesterfield but moved to Dronfield when she was just 3 days old, growing up on Bents Lane. She met husband Stephen when, on a geography field trip, he offered to clean her boots. Smooth move, Stephen. After A-levels, she studied town and country planning at Manchester University, emerging with 2 degrees. But with government cuts in this field of work, there were no jobs available to her. So, after a period living with her by now husband Stephen in Liverpool, they moved back to Dronfield, where the first of their 3 children was born in 1983. After more than a decade raising her own children and later being a registered childminder to many other children, she was appointed to the role of church coordinator at her own church, the Oaks, in Dronfield. And after nearly 20 years, she has just retired from the role, giving her more time for the things that are most dear to her, spending time with family, including her grandchildren and her church family, worshipping God and helping those in need. Janet Moreton, welcome to COVID Island Discs.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure. I'm so pleased that you've decided to come on, and I'm looking forward to hearing your music choices and hearing a bit more about you.
Fantastic. Let's go for it.
Let's go for it. So, first of all, Janet, tell us how you ended up at the Oaks.
Well, I kind of ended up at the Oaks at the beginning, really. I don't know whether you know, but the Oaks kind of grew from a youth group as it was then. Right. And I was part of that youth group. In the late 70s, we decided, well, the leaders then decided that we wanted to set up a church. Uh-huh. And I was one of those that was in right from the beginning. So I've been there as long as the Oaks has.
Right. And so what was that? Was it in the 70s the Oaks started?
Late 70s, yes. Kind of 79-ish, I think.
And it's grown and grown. And now there's more than one Oaks, isn't there? Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, we've got a congregation in Dronfield. We've also got a congregation in Eckington that meets in the Lighthouse in Eckington. So, yeah.
Right. Fantastic. And I noticed as well that, as well as the sort of worshipping community, there's this food store project that you're doing now, which is fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, that's called Restore. That's been going for just over a year. We started in January last year. So yeah, that's going really well, been really, really busy.
So it's like a food bank, is it?
It's not a food bank, no. It's called a community food service.
Okay.
And we set it, well, initially, I'd been to visit a similar project that was happening in Grassmore, and I was so amazed by what they were doing and the impact that it had on the community and on the people that had actually found faith through it, that I felt that I wanted to start something similar here. So that's kind of where the vision stemmed from, really. But there are 2 aims. One is to combat food waste. Mm-hmm. So we work with Fair Share, which is a charitable organisation who try and reallocate food that is short dated and would otherwise be thrown away, either by the wholesalers or by the supermarkets. So we basically collect that from various sources and we give it out to people in food parcels every week. But the second of our aims was to help people in need. And obviously during COVID, that's become much more significant as people have not been able to work or, have found themselves facing difficult times. So it's been, a bit of a lifeline for some folk as well. So, but we still work with those 2 aims, which is why it's not a food bank. There is no qualification to attend. Anybody can attend. Anybody can register. But we don't check people's income or their benefits or anything like that. They don't have to be referred by social services or citizens advice or anything. They can just turn up.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's so good that the church is doing it. It's, one of the things I think the church should be doing. And I'm so pleased that that's there in Dronfield. And I suppose what I'd say, if anybody's watching this and they feel that they need to go to get food, and maybe a bit of pride is saying, I'm too proud to go. They shouldn't feel that way, should they, Janet?
No, absolutely not. That's why we've opened it to anybody. As I say, that you don't have to qualify in any way. All you need to do is turn up on a Thursday morning with your pound and your shopping bag, and we will fill your bags with a selection of whatever we've got. We can never guarantee what we get, because the nature of it is that, we can't always guarantee we've got everything, but we'll do our best to give you a good mix of food to feed the family with.
Brilliant. So, Janet, tell us about your first disc.
Right. Okay. So my first disc is Pelagia's song from Captain Corelli's Mandolin. I would say it's probably my favourite film. I know that might surprise some people because it's quite traumatic at times, watching it through. But the music itself, for me, is very powerful, because as you watch the film, that music kind of unlocks Pelagia's heart amidst all the destruction and all the, the war and the horror that's going on in Kefalonia at that time. That piece of music kind of just unlocks her heart. And I think that, for me, is why I've chosen it. And also because it reminds me, particularly this year when we've not been able to go abroad anywhere, it reminds me of happy holidays in Kefalonia and in other Greek islands. Just that, watching the film, listening to that music kind of just takes me back to those times when we've enjoyed holidays in Greece.
I've never seen the film, but I've read the book. Have you read the book?
Well worth watching. I've got it on DVD if you want to borrow it.
Thank you. Have you read the book?
I haven't read the book, no, but now I'm retired, maybe I will have time to read a few more books.
So, Janet, tell us, how did you become a Christian? What's the story there?
Well, most of my childhood, because I lived on Bents Lane, I went to what is now St Philip's Church, used to then be Holmesdale Christian Centre. I went to Sunday school there, I went to Brownies and Guides there. So I was kind of, used to that church environment and I enjoyed it. But when I was doing my O-levels at Henry Fanshawe, a group of us used to go to a CU at lunchtime run by one of the teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And the teacher invited us to a meeting at St Thomas's in Sheffield,
Yeah.
which was an evangelistic event, and I can't remember the name of the guy who preached. I apologise, it was a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
But when this chap spoke and explained, who Jesus was, the fact that he died for us on the cross so that we could be reconciled to God, and I kind of sat and listened, and I just knew that I had to respond. There was no debate in my mind. I just knew that I had to do something about it. So that was the night that I made a commitment. And from there, I kind of joined the youth group that later became the Oaks, as we said earlier.
Yes.
So yeah, that was it really. That was my encounter when God suddenly kind of became not just somebody in history that I'd learnt about, but actually somebody that was real and meaningful to me.
Yeah. And it's wonderful, isn't it, that it was somebody invited you. And a lot of people come to faith that way through an invitation from someone, don't they?
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
And so encouraging that, and there still are teachers in school who will encourage young people to explore their faith, so which is brilliant.
Yeah, thank you. So tell us about your second piece of music, Janet.
My second piece of music is a hymn, and it's Here Is Love Vast as the Ocean. And I think for me, it is one of those hymns that as a child, I sung when I went to church, in Sunday school and what have you. And I always liked it. But actually, when I became a Christian, it became so much more powerful and so much more meaningful. I then understood the words, and I understood what it was about. And that for me just, it just blows me away every time I sing it, every time I hear it.
Here is love, vast as the ocean, loving kindness as the flood. When the Prince of Life our ransom shed for us his precious blood, who his love will not remember, who can cease to sing his praise. He can never be forgotten throughout heaven's eternal day. On the mount of crucifixion, fountains open deep and wide. Through the floodgates of God's mercy flowed a vast and gracious tide. Grace and love like mighty rivers poured incessant from above, and heaven's peace and perfect justice kissed the guilty burning love. Here is love vast as the ocean. Here is love vast as the ocean, loving kindness as the flood. When the Prince of Life our ransom shed for us his precious blood, who his love will not remember, who can cease to sing his praise. He can never be forgotten throughout heaven's eternal days. On the mind of crucifixion.
It's a wonderful hymn, isn't it? And sung by Robin Mark there, who's one of my favourites.
Yeah. Lovely hymn.
Yeah, it's so deep and meaningful, isn't it, those words? And they really take you to that place of worship. And
Absolutely.
we've missed that, haven't we, in church, not being able to sing and belt our hearts out of those great hymns like that.
Oh, I know. It's so hard. Actually, not singing to a piece of music is something I find incredibly difficult. we went to a funeral in October, and to have to sit in my seat while the organist played hymns and not be allowed to open my mouth,
Yeah.
I found incredibly hard.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just kind of goes against who I am and everything within me, kind of thing, you know?
That's right. And that's one of the hardest things about this time. And
Yeah.
that there's lots of hard bits about it though, and it's how have you managed this year with everything on COVID Island discs, and has music helped you?
Yeah, music always helps me through difficult times. I actually engage with God through worship a lot. And when I mean 3 years ago, when we faced family tragedy, actually being in church and singing, even though I was crying through the songs, actually being in that place where I could worship, for me, was part of the healing. And I think God often speaks to me through worship. You know, a lot of the songs that we sing, a lot of the hymns that we sing are taken from Scripture. And quite often I'll go back and look at the Scripture that's behind the song, and I just find it so helpful to engage with God in that way.
Yeah.
So yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it, when you've been singing a song for years, and then you're reading the Bible and you think, oh, well, that's where they got it from.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Isn't it amazing? The ones that you never would dream had come from that. You think, oh yeah, I recognise this passage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's been a tough year, hasn't it? And this particular year, how have you coped on the island, on COVID Island?
I have to admit there are some things that I've found incredibly hard. I found it hard when we had to cancel our family holiday abroad.
Yes.
I found it hard when I've not been able to see my grandkids. But I've been very fortunate. I mean, actually, Stephen and I both got COVID in March, just before lockdown.
Right.
So we were in isolation for a week, 10 days then. And we had a very mild dose, and neither of us had any complications, and we got over it relatively unscathed, I'd say. We were very fortunate in that. But because I've been working at Restore, I've actually been legitimately able to go out as a key worker, pick up donations from supermarkets. We've run Restore all the way through lockdown. So I've kind of seen people there, even though it's been at a distance and wearing masks and all of that. Actually, I've been very fortunate in that I've still had a lot of links with people, and I've seen people, and I've been able to have conversations with people. Obviously, I've been working, so I've had a lot of Zoom meetings. I was working with Emma because she's obviously taken over from me, so we've been trying to do training. That's been quite hard, actually. Trying to train somebody to take over your job when you can't meet and sit next to each other in the office has been quite tricky. But Emma's been fantastic. She's been a real encouragement to me during the last year in particular. So yeah, there's been a lot of pluses, despite the fact that there's been a lot of things that are not as they were and not as we would want them to be. But
yeah, that's great that you could do the sort of work, because not only were you getting something out of that, obviously it was helping others, which is I know important to you. Now, tell us then about your third piece of music, Janet.
My third piece of music is a song called All Things, and it's by David and Nicole Binion. Now, some people might never have heard this, but this to me has been a fantastic song that I've kind of turned to a lot during lockdown. And it's one of those songs that comes from Scripture, and it's taken from Romans 8. And I'm going to read you Romans 8, verse 28, which says, "And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him," which is the basis of this song. And basically, it's saying, that whatever we're going through, whatever difficulties we're facing, however hard it might seem, we need to hold on to what we believe, that God is working for our good, even though we don't see the evidence of that right in front of us. And that's faith, isn't it? That's kind of the crux of what we're talking about, really. So yeah, all things.
This heavy load was never mine to bear, so I cast my cares upon you, Lord. This weary road I've traveled for so long, would you take my hand and lead me on? You are working all things for my good. You are working all things for my good. When I cannot see it, God, I still believe it. You are working all things for my good. When troubles come and nights are filled with tears, I will fix my eyes upon the one whose perfect love has conquered every fear. Hold me in your everlasting arms. You are working all things for my good. You are working all things for my good. When I cannot see it, God, I still believe it. You are working all things for my good. Oh yeah. Oh God, I know you're working it out for me. You're working it out for me, making something beautiful, yeah. And I see it breaking on the horizon, the dark of night giving way to the dawn. The day is coming, and hope is
Well, that's something we really need right now, isn't it? That promise of that God is working things out for our good.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely. Yeah,
just when we think that we're at the end of this, the horizon seems to stretch out further. But that song speaks about it. It is going to come, and we just have to
yeah,
trust God.
yeah. We've got to hold on to him, haven't we?
Yeah,
And know that he'll see us through.
He will.
So yeah.
He will. So, Janet, tell us about a time. It could be one occasion or a few occasions where you felt absolutely yes. This is why I go to church. This is what it's all about.
Oh, well, I've already talked about, the worship and actually being together with a group of other Christians worshiping for me. And that's the one thing I really, really miss in lockdown. I mean, I think, yeah, it's great having the service zoomed into your front room on your laptop or your TV screen or whatever. But
Yeah.
I really, really miss that being part of a big group of people worshiping God together. For me, there's something very, very powerful in that. And I know that when we've been to one event in the summer, quite often we'll go at August Bank Holiday to one event at Lincoln where there'll be, 4,000 people in the big top all worshipping. And that to me is a really, really special time. But there have been times when God's spoken to me just in the kind of mundane and everyday, and a few, and actually this is why I started Restore, because a few years ago I was helping a lady that had come to our church. She was desperate. Her life was in a bit of a mess. She'd got herself into all sorts of situations that she kind of regretted, but she was still having to go through the consequences of her actions. And as I was helping this lady week by week and praying for her, I felt God very clearly say to me one particular time, there are lots more people like her who need help. And that's one of the things that I've held on to. And that's why 18 months ago, when I saw what was happening in the little Methodist church in Grassmore in Chesterfield, and I saw their community food project, I kind of felt like, yes, this is what I want us to be doing in Dronfield. So, and without the support of folk in the church and folk in the community who've been involved and who've contributed, it wouldn't happen.
Yeah. That's just full, Janet. Thank you. So what's your fourth piece of music, please?
My fourth piece of music is a song called Waymaker. And very simple song, but it just again sums up what God's like. It talks about him being a miracle worker and a promise keeper and a light in the darkness. And I could tell you lots and lots of stories about, since we've been doing Restore, how God's provided for us, how he's provided donations of food from places we didn't expect, grant funding. I've had people phone me up completely out of the blue, never spoken to them before in my life, and they ring up and say, can we give you some money?
Wow.
And we've had quite a lot of donations from local community groups, from all sorts of places. I've had experiences of, we collect from M&S, and one of the things that they give us is flowers, and M&S flowers are always in nice condition, even when they're on the day. So one of the things I've been doing is saying to God, okay, God, who do you want me to give these flowers to?
Right.
And sometimes I'll drop names in my head and I'll go and deliver flowers to those people and say, I've just brought you these to bless you. And there have been times where I've not actually known why God sent me to that particular person, but afterwards somebody's come to me and said, you didn't realize this, but before you turned up with those flowers, that person was going through this situation. And actually, you turning up with flowers just turned that around. So I just think, God is amazing in how he kind of directs us and orchestrates, knows what people need and kind of points us in that direction. So yeah, that's why I've chosen Waymaker.
You are here, moving in a midst. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, rearranging destinies. I worship you. I worship you. You are here, turning lives around. Lift up your hands. I worship you. I worship you. You are here. You are working miracles. I worship you. I worship you. I call it a way maker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. That is who you are. Way maker, miracle worker, promise keeper, light in the darkness. My God. Lift up your hands, say, I worship you, Jesus. I worship you. I worship you. You are here. Healing every. I worship you. I worship you. Wave your hands to me. Say you are here.
just thinking as we were listening to that, how there might be people watching this who think, well, he's, that's good for other people, but he's not going to turn my life around. But that's not true, is it, Janet?
It's not. No, it's not. I've been in situations with other people who you would really not think, you just kind of think, oh, God, is this situation too much for you? And actually he's stepped in and he's made a difference for people. And I know he's done that for me, like I say, when I've been through horrendous situations in the last few years, and you just think, God, where are you in this? But actually he's there and he's in the midst of it. And he's there to help us through it, step by step, bit by bit. He's there to kind of just, gently take hold of your hand and say, yeah, come on, we can do this together.
Yeah.
So.
It's been inspiring to speak with you, Janet, and we've skated through things really, and I wish we could spend more time. So I just would ask you: are there survival tips that you could share with us to get us through however much is left of this lockdown and this time of COVID Island?
I think for me, the one thing that I would say is, don't look at the things that you can't do, or the things that you've missed out on, or the things you haven't been able to have, or whatever, but actually just concentrate on what you can do. And focus on those things that we can do. Like for me, since I haven't seen my grandchildren live locally, but I haven't actually seen them since Christmas Day, which for me is hard because I see them every week normally. But actually, instead of sitting here thinking, life's awful because I haven't seen my grandchildren, I think, actually, they've got an iPad. I can FaceTime them. I can talk to them. I can send them a text message. I can, there are so many things that I can do. I know it's not the same as seeing them face to face, but just focus on what you can do and what you have got.
Yeah. It's a great tip and really absolutely spot on. So we're very generous here on COVID Islandist. We're going to give you, Janet, to take away with you the complete works of Graham Kendrick.
Wow.
You must have sung some of those back in the over the years.
Yeah, going back a few years. Yeah, don't know so much of his recent stuff actually, but his stuff in the 70s, 80s, quite familiar with. Yeah, March for Jesus and all those kind of events. Yeah.
Excellent. And you get the Bible and a book of your choice. What would you take?
Right. Well, the book of my choice would be Race Against Time by Ellen MacArthur.
Okay.
Not because I'm into sailing, never sailed a boat before in my life. For those who don't know, she's the young woman from Derbyshire who broke the world record in 2005 for sailing non-stop round the world in just over 71 days.
Wow.
But the book is basically her kind of story of that journey. And I think the way she's coped with all those adversities, her perseverance, her resilience, and having to face things on her own, it's a long time since I've read it, but the bit where she's climbing up the mast to put something right, in the middle of the Southern Ocean. And it's just incredible that she can kind of go through all that and stick with it and come through triumphant at the end. So that would be my one book I would have to take.
Okay, thank you. And you get to take one other item. What would that be?
Right. Well, I have to say, I think my one other item would have to be my iPad, because it has on it lots and lots of photos of family and friends and places that I've visited. But it also would have to have on it my grandson's videos and animations, because if ever you're feeling a bit fed up or a bit down, if you watch one of his animations, I guarantee it will make you smile.
Excellent. So tell us about your final piece of music, Janet.
So my final piece of music is one that came out of the first lockdown, and it's the UK Blessing, which Tim Hughes put together. That song was on my playlist anyway from, when Carrie Joe first produced it.
Yeah.
But I just think this is such a fantastic example of Christians across the UK, the church working together from every denomination, working together to sing a blessing out over our nation, in the midst of all that was going on. It was just amazing. It just completely blew me away the first time I heard it.
The Lord bless you and keep you.
Make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. Lord, turn his face toward you
and give you peace. The Lord bless you and keep you.
Make his face shine upon you
And be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you
and give you peace.
The Lord bless you and keep you. Make his face shine upon you
and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you
And give you peace.
It's a blessing that keeps on blessing, isn't it, that song?
Absolutely. Fabulous.
Yeah, it's so moving. So, Janet, you can only take one, well, let's say you can only take one of those five with you. Which one would you choose?
Ooh. Do you know, Ian, that's a bit like having to choose your favourite child out of the three. Well, do you know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say I would choose Pelagia's song.
Okay.
The reason I would choose Pelagia's song is because I could sing all the others and I can't play the mandolin or any other instrument for that matter. So kind of I would get the best of everything if I did that.
Excellent. That's a good point. We've had a few
That's a
musicians.
very practical solution to the problem.
We've had a few musicians on the show and they've taken their instrument with them, but obviously you've got your voice and we've all got our voices, haven't we?
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Janet, it's been a real pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for sharing a bit of your story and of the wonderful music that you've chosen. And God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I have to say, I've really, really enjoyed it. Thank you.